years ago, fishermen would go out for 2-3 hours and come back with hundreds of pounds of fish. To get that same catch, as time progressed, they had to be staying at sea longer, sometimes overnight and going further. I think if 10 years ago you had proposed closing off a major area of the coastline to fishing, most of the fishermen would have said no, they would have never agreed. But I think because they have observed the decline firsthand, they know they're not seeing the same fish they used to. They're not seeing fish in the same size they used to. And they are aware that they have to be going further and further to catch fish. My name is Marshall Donegan, and I'm the Chief Operating Officer at the Alligator Head Foundation. I grew up close to Manchonil, which is the major fishing community in Portland. I think what I've observed change over the years is the level of effort to catch fish. Portland is an area in Jamaica that's generally very laid back, but has also struggled with the growth of the community members. There are about 1,500 persons directly involved in fishing, and in terms of persons that are dependent on fishing, you'd probably have to multiply that number by 4. So you're probably looking at 6,000 to 7,000 persons who are dependent on the fishing industry. I recognized that the fishing industry was at stake. I recognized that families would be impacted. I recognized that people who I grew up with, people who I went to school with, would be impacted. We had already started to suffer some impacts. Because persons were going further and staying longer. There are persons who got lost at sea. So there are persons who I knew, who I grew up with, who went to sea and didn't come back because of how far they were going in the canoes, because of how long they were staying out. And so I felt that it was critical that given where I was, given the position I was in, given the opportunity that the foundation represented, that if I could work with the foundation to correct some of those issues, to make it safer for them to go, to get it back to a stage where they didn't have to be spending 2-3 days at sea to get the types of catch that they wanted, that they didn't have to go all the way to the far banks. That given that opportunity, it was critical that I became involved in this process. I think a lot of times in relationships with communities, the community members feel that their stake is being ignored, that they're forced to be kept quiet. We went to the fishing beaches, we went on their verandas, we went to their meetings. In fact, we were not always welcomed at their meetings, and sometimes they told us point blank that we had to leave, but we kept going. We also took them to other places to see what could be done. So we took members of the community, some of the same members were upset with us. We take them to Aracabesa, which is a sanctuary that was years ahead of us that was working. We took some of them to Mexico, to Cabo Pumo, which is an effort that was 10 years in the making. And we also assisted them with other projects. So we engaged them at various levels, and they saw that we weren't just interested in keeping them out of the sanctuary, we were also interested in helping them as a community develop. It was critical that we listened to what they wanted. We didn't make an assumption that they wanted to become masons or plumbers, but we realized from talking to particular individuals that, look, I want to stay connected to the sea. I want to have the freedom that I now enjoy as a fisherman. I like the ability of setting my own hours of work. I like the ability to say I'm self-employed. And whatever you train me in, it must ensure that in some way, shape or form, I still have that, if not the same levels of freedom, but I am still able to go back to what was the core of my life before. I still can go to the sea. I can still make a living in a way that's in some way connected to the ocean, which I think is why lifeguard certification, scuba certification, transitioning the fishermen from going to sea to catch fish to taking tourists out to see fish is critical, because it keeps them grounded and keeps them close to their roots. If I were to go diving in 25 years, my hope is I'd see a number of fishermen out taking tourists. I think we have asked them to make big sacrifices. We've asked them to give up an area that they've been fishing in for years. I think if in 25 years we're not able to have those fishermen empowered, have those fishermen employed, and have those fishermen benefiting from the transition, then we would have failed. So while it would be great to see lots of fish, to see a marine system that has rebounded, I think for me, if we're not seeing fishermen whose life has been transitioned and not seeing them out on the sea benefiting from those changes, then we would have failed.